Finding lead is the core problem that B2B sales faces. There are a lot of self styled gurus who prescribe various shortcuts, but what I figured by literally speaking to most of them is that there is, in fact, no silver bullet. We wanted to dive in and share with our sales community, discuss questions and issues we face, and do that in an intimate setting like this one, and get it going with those who are doing it day in and day out. Our guest today is Andrew Elsakr, the co-founder of Line.ai and Patable.ai. Patable helps you identify which companies need your solution the most and what you should say to them to book a meeting. Andrew, welcome to Lead to Close series, and this is a part of our one-on-one conversations that we have apart from the webinars that we do. And I'm really excited to talk to you because I think what you're doing at Patable is one of those which is not doing more of what is being done, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what we have seen in the past, say 2 years, is birth of multiple database companies. So people who do pretty much what Apollo does or something similar, right?
Yeah.
So you have some kind of a filter you can take out, and they talk about 70 million companies, 200 million addresses, and so on and so forth. So essentially, the path has been go to Sales Navigator or define your ICP, plug those assumptions or whatever filters
Yeah.
into a database, and it'll throw up, I don't know, 10,000 names.
Yeah.
And then you go through a multiple process of verifying those emails, verifying, and you go through multiple layers, multiple tools, catch-alls and non-catch-alls, and a very mechanical process, end of which you are supposed to be having in your hand a bunch of qualified folks you can reach out to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem with this narrative is if this works, there's nothing wrong with what
Yeah.
I just described. It works and it does throw up valid emails of 10,000 people. Problem is, we still have 2% conversion. So
Yeah.
there is something which is not connecting, right? And that's the premise. And the objective of these sessions is to find out alternate thoughts and alternate approaches and successes that are coming out of those approaches.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show, and I'm really glad that we are having this chat.
Thank you, Shibanjan. I'm glad to be invited on here.
So yeah, I mean, what do you think is wrong with lead gen, and what do you think can fix it?
Yeah. So if you look back at, the deals that close and the deals that you lose, you can trace them both back to the easiest one is the BANT framework. So, budget, authority, need, and timing. Maybe a company didn't have the right budget. The person was the wrong person. You didn't get to the right decision maker. They didn't have a big need, or it was the wrong time. And then you can kind of trace back the targeting that you did to find those accounts. Was the targeting, the filters that you used in Sales Navigator, what was that really purpose to fit? So when you select those filters, which filter traced back to which aspect of the BANT framework? So maybe you had people who had a certain funding category. Maybe that's going to help you with the budgeting part of BANT, or maybe that means they probably have a certain type of problem. So that's going to give you the need. Maybe they just raised funding, so it's a good time for them. But really, the filters that you do have, they very rarely relate back to the actual problem that a company solves. So we think that it's really important to start with the end, with the need, and then if you had a magic wand where you could wave that wand and you can get any column, any filter in Sales Navigator that would tell you this account has that problem that you solve, what would that column look like? And so we have kind of two focuses. The first focus is just building out new fields. We call them pain signals, so you can identify the companies that actually have that problem that you solve, and then also building out other fields to help us figure out, okay, how likely are they to have this kind of budget? How likely is it to be the right time for them? So there's pretty much two types of targeting that's happening right now, and the tools are built around these. You have first just the trait-based targeting, and then the trigger-based targeting. The trait-based targeting, these are all the filters that you're used to seeing: revenue, headcount, anything that's true about the company that defines the characteristics of it. And these are things that are true for generally a longer window of time, the technologies they use, things like that. Then
So
you also have the trigger.
firmographics, basically firmographics.
Basically, firmographics, you can bump those in there. That's one category. The second category, which has emerged, is the trigger based, and that's where you have your Bombora, intent signals, leadership changes, all these alert based tools that I get an email, or every week I have a new list of companies that meet this trigger. Um, so the problem with those is that a lot of times they really are good at showing the right timing, so the T part of the band. But sometimes they maybe don't show a need. So if somebody just got hired at a company, it could be a good time to sell to them, but maybe they don't have a need. So it's really effective for that T part, but maybe it doesn't show that they have budget. Maybe it doesn't show that they have needs. So you basically have a lot of imperfect ways of finding companies that are going to be good fits, and we're just cobbling those together right now. And so that's probably why you haven't seen that the close rate really improve too much over the years, no matter how many new tools have hit the market.
So the question is then, how do you solve it? So the real issue is, are we able to quickly qualify a lead?
Mm-hmm.
And my personal hypothesis is that the best way to qualify is to let the buyer qualify himself or herself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the buyer has input about all the four. If I'm taking BANT as a usable format, I mean, there can be debates about that, but keep it aside for the moment. So if we say budget, authority, need, and time is a good sort of framework to qualify somebody. The point is that we still need to quickly be able to do that, and the best person to do that is the buyer, because they know whether they have the budget, they know whether they have the authority, they know whether they have the need, and whether this is the right time, right? So that's possibly the best way to do it. But how do we plug ourselves into that? How does a vendor plug themselves into that?
Well, I might disagree there. Buyer might not be the best one to qualify themselves, because if you're solving a problem, they might either not know about the problem, they might have a blind eye to it. A lot of problems, if it's the kind of, like for example, this problem, these low close rates, if you look around and you see everybody has the same problem as you might forget that it's a problem. So really good outbound can be something that makes somebody aware of this problem that they do have. And they maybe they knew there was a problem, they didn't realize there was a solution, so they weren't looking. So for example, I think the example that we looked at on LinkedIn was a company like Vanta or Sprinto. How do their sales reps spend their time? So you kind of have the first phase where companies will just have this bad targeting. They'll send they'll waste ad spend on bad accounts. They'll have their sales reps and account executives prospecting bad fit accounts. And then that's going to result in low close rates, lower ACVs, longer sales cycles. So then the next phase where they try to solve this is they tell their sales reps to do some more research before you actually reach out. So here's the tier 1 accounts, but we don't trust that enough. So spend some time checking them before you reach out, so we can have a higher close rate before we get them in the pipeline. And so that's the solution they have right now. And you might be taking 4 hours a day for an SDR of just manual research. And so if you're reaching out to the sales leader at Vanta, they might not think that it's a problem. They might think, oh, we've solved the problem. We're no longer going to have bad fits getting into our pipeline. But that's really not that's really not a solid solution to it. So if you reach out to them, they still probably have a strong need for a solution that can reduce the time spent on manual research, but they might not know about the problem. So if you can identify the problem existing at a company, you can often do it before the decision maker can, and then you can inform them about it and then show them how expensive a problem it is. So there are ways to, if you had new columns that describe a company beyond the typical firmographics, there are ways to find companies that have certain problems and they might not be aware of it.
Fair enough. Let's take this forward. I mean, I can join issue, but I'll not, because objective is not to debate. I mean, I was just saying that possibly the information, the most complete information is available with the buyer. That was where I was coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there
Agreed.
can be gaps in that as well. But at any point of time, even if they don't know all four, they will know whether they have the budget or whether the timing is right, and so on and so forth. So I was really coming from there, and I think I don't have any fundamental disagreement in what you're saying.
Sure.
So let's progress on your hypothesis. If that's what we need to do, and we are not possibly doing it the best and the most efficient way, what do you think is the most efficient way?
Sure. So the most efficient way, if you have a lot of companies that are later stage, especially, they might have their own internal data team. So one good example of this is Chili Piper. So Chili Piper, they can only really help a company. Are you familiar with Chili Piper? They make it easier for you to sign up for demos. They can only help you if you have a demo process, first of all, and second of all, they can really help you if that demo process, if it sucks currently. If you have leads that are coming through trying to sign up, there's a lot of friction in the process, long turnaround time in responding to them. That's when Chili Piper can really help. But there's no data provider that's gonna give that to you. Similar company, Cloudinary, they help you if you have lots of rich media on your website and you need to have help managing that. So in the case of Chili Piper, they have a tier 1 list, but they have lots of companies in the tier 1 list that might be, purely product led, no demo involved. The best solution for that is to really look for that root question that you have, where a company really has the problem that I solved if they have this trait or this trait or this trait, and then having a custom solution to go out and build that for you. So in their case, their data team was able to go figure out, okay, do they have a demo on the page, and can we enrich our CRM with that so they can stop wasting so much time manually clicking in. On the Cloudinary side, they had their own data team and they had to pull in outside vendors to help them figure out, does each company in my tier 1 list have a video on their landing page? So that's usually a sign that we can serve them better. So getting creative about thinking about what's the problem that we solve and what are some indicators of that on the website that we can look for.
Interesting. And where do you go from there? So you basically select them. It's again the sales navigator and Apollo route, right? So I have now identified 5,000 websites which has video. Actually, in case of Cloudinary, I think it's more challenging because every website has a video. So it's literally everybody, and which is like then nobody, right? So how do you actually now move on that and zero down on those with whom you can possibly have a conversation?
Yeah, so oftentimes it's not a matter of do they have the problem or not. Oftentimes you can look for really degrees of the problem.
Okay.
So for example, Cloudinary, you can look for how much media do they have? Do they have lots of podcasts stored on their website? Do they have lots of videos being displayed? How many do they have? Do they have several different pages where each page is like a video testimonial? They have a video on each one of those. So there's also ways you can calculate not just whether or not they likely have the problem, but to what degree do they have that problem. For Chili Piper, you can look for not just do they have a demo or not, but does that demo have how many fields do they have? Do I have to fill out like 20 different questions to be able to book a demo with them, or do they have a more clever way of doing it? So there's other ways where you can calculate really the degree of the problem, and then once you have those fields, you can prioritize better, and then you also have important data that you can use in the outreach. So if I'm cold calling or if I'm writing an email, now I can just pull data directly from what was already provided, and I can say, hey, saw that you have a demo request that takes 20 fields to fill out. Curious if you know what's the completion rate of that form. So there's now you have a conversation starter that's tailored to the person. So your targeting is better, and also the messaging gets much better because it's really related to that pain that you're solving.
Okay. So according to you, what is missing in this scenario that you just explained, which made you build what you are trying to build at Patible?
Yeah, so people just don't have the way to get those fields right now. the companies that we described, Chili Piper and Cloudinary, they're in a great spot. They have, large team, large data teams that can support the sales team. But most companies, engineering is really purely focused on building out their own product. They don't have any bandwidth to help out sales and marketing, and a lot of teams don't really have the idea to do so. So it's really the question is it possible to have a data team external to my company that's not going to cost me a huge amount of money, because there are consulting firms that will help you with this. It's going to take us a couple months. It's going to cost you, a ton of money. So our approach is there a way to productize this? Is there a way to basically do all this research in a way that, we're at the point where we're tracking enough pain signals that it's like Facebook ads. I can't go to Facebook ads and tell them, okay, I want to know this column, but most likely I can find an existing field that they have that will help me target better, or I can just use their lookalikes and then they'll figure out um, which from my existing customers or my existing best fit leads, which of the columns they already have are most relevant and most able to predict a good fit.
So walk me through this. I mean, how take example which is not as easy as Chili Piper or
Yeah.
Ordinary, and okay, let's do this. How do you find customers for Patible?
Yeah, so customers for Patable, usually if you have a product that would be kind of hard to identify. So what we'll do is we'll go look at their websites, and then we'll basically distill down different pieces. And we'll run this through like a ChatGPT type of model in a spreadsheet, and we'll distill it down to what's the problem that they solve. And then you can also run another model that has another column that says, okay, can this be found on the website, or how easy is this to find out? And so the ones where it's not a super huge market, those are usually good for us. If it's a smaller market where it's kind of hard to narrow that down with existing filters, that's usually a good fit for us. Companies that are either just starting to try to scale their outbound are good fits for us, or companies that maybe already are a bit bloated, and they would be suffering most acutely from this problem. Those are also interesting fits for us too. So yes, because smaller TAMs are usually a bit of a problem. If you have a massive TAM, you can just kind of sometimes, throw a dart and try to hit the dartboard. But a really small TAM, where you have to, clean out the bad fits, those usually are the ones who are the most frustrated.
Right. So walk me through the process again. So you are mentioning columns that they'll have this column and they'll not
Yeah,
have this
yeah,
column. So
yeah,
break it down a bit more, unpack that idea so that when our audience, which are primarily sales and
yeah.
marketing professionals, they're listening to this, they get a sense of what they can do. I mean,
Sure, sure.
either on their own or by using a tool like yours.
Yeah, yeah. So for just building your own list, sometimes you can just use a lot of the new AI tools that have come out. There's this one plugin for Google Sheets that I highly recommend. It saves you from having to, write code and run code. It's called GBT for Sheets.
Okay.
Yeah, GBT for Sheets. Highly recommend it. It's a game changer. If you have an OpenAI account, you can get
Yeah.
your API key and you can plug it into this Google Sheet. And then you can honestly, there's something that you could try doing is you can download a list from Apollo of the companies that you maybe thought were going to be great fits for you and you were going to target. And then they have a description column in there, a really big description column. And so you can, for some products, you can try asking questions about that column. So for example, let's say that I sell, insurance or cyber insurance
Hmm.
for startups. You can try asking a question. So based on this description, is this company likely to have huge risks of cyber attacks?
Hmm.
Something like that. You can get creative with it, but a lot of times just from the existing data, you can try to run it through the ChatGPT API in the Google Sheets and just run it for all those companies. And you can try just asking different questions about the pain that you solve and use the existing data that you have. That's usually an interesting way to get started. And where we come in is, let's say there's no way to figure it out from the columns that you have there, then we can go out and find additional data and source additional either raw text that we can use that has the nuggets of information, or we can just do something more complicated. But a lot of times for a lot of really, simple solutions, you can have 10 times better targeting just from combining the existing data you get from providers already, with just running the API in Google Sheets, on all your targets, and you can use that to help you generate messaging too that you can plug into your email campaigns. So that's definitely something that's underutilized that people can do right now without any extra any solution.
Right. And yeah, and why do you think people are not doing it? Is it because the technology is new, or they're still not conversant, or they don't know at all that this can be done?
I think it's just not obvious that you can do this easily. I think people are used to thinking of, some people don't know about the API. Some people try to do this stuff one by one
Hmm.
in the chat UI on
Right.
chat.openai, as opposed to just grabbing their API key. So, and I
Ah,
think a lot of the tutorials that we see online are really, focused on the chatbot, the chat UI
hmm.
functionality. So I think it's just not obvious. It's also, yeah, I think I'm hoping that maybe after this, after suggesting it, more people will try it. But I think it's something that definitely a lot of people can do.
So let's talk about Patable. How did you get started, and how are you doing? What is happening today? Where do you see take off? Because essentially you are evangelizing what you just told me, right? You
Yeah,
are
yeah.
talking that let's do this new way. Um,
Hmm.
so one of the things that you write on your website, and I'm a bit curious about it, is that you talk about actively seeking out buyers who pass the qualification, right?
Hmm.
So what does that mean? I mean, I know you did talk about it. I mean, I know
Hmm.
I'm repeating it. It's more for the benefit of people who will try to actually glean
Yeah,
this knowledge
yeah,
and try to apply, right? So tell us about how you got started, and what exactly you do
yeah,
when a customer, for instance, if I come to you and say, hey, this is the tool that I sell, this is for
yeah.
primarily for remote selling folks, uh, how do I find those who have the need today? Okay,
Sure,
so now
sure.
you don't have to talk about my tool. I'm just saying, give example. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got started on this. It's the same team we previously worked on a company called Line.ai, Lyne.ai.
Mhm.
And what we did there was, we allowed sales agencies or sales reps, who are running cold email campaigns, to upload their lists of prospects and companies to our tool. And then we would go out, and for every person, every company in that list, we would crawl the web, identify interesting details about that person. So maybe podcasts they appeared on, webinars they spoke at, about the company. So recent news the company had been featured in, case studies the company had on their website, their value proposition, and then we would run those through a large language model to output a sentence where it's a compliment that you can plug into your cold email. So it'd be something like, "Hey, saw that you just had a case study with so and so on your website. Great to see you were able to increase their conversion rates by 50%." So it's people were using that to plug it into the first line of their cold emails to tailor it, make it more likely you're going to have higher open rate, higher reply rate. The problem there was that we were really limited in how we could help our customers. A lot of them would upload a list, send the campaign, and be like, "Hey, it didn't do that well." And I'd be like, "Okay, let's take a look." Like, "Wow, your targeting is really something here." So it's there's only so much you can do on the messaging side if you just completely have the targeting wrong to begin with. And when we were seeing that, that's honestly, that's part of, you don't want to have a product where it's really unpredictable the results that your customers will have. So we focus more on the targeting side, and that's where we think the bigger problem is, and we'd like to work on the bigger problem. For the second question, what do we do? So a lot of times, we'll walk through the questions that they'll ask. And so I'll ask you, let's say you're in a call, you're in a demo, with his first call with a potential customer, what are the things that might make you realize this is a really bad fit, this is not going to work out?
Typically, for us, it would be, oh, we don't have any problem in getting a meeting, and we get all the meetings that we want.
Yeah.
We would say that, okay, then maybe they don't need our tool, because we actually facilitate people to start conversations without getting into a meeting, and then
Yeah.
sort of having qualified meetings rather than just having meetings for qualifying. Okay, so
And
yeah.
then, mhm. Well, and then what are some ways that you know that, oh, this is a really good fit? This is going to be a great time.
Yeah, so again, it's the reverse, that we are
Yeah.
having tough time convincing people to come on a meeting with us. Whatever we tell them on the cold call where they've caught them suddenly, or send them a mail to which they have responded to, but we cannot move it forward even after running a cadence,
Yeah.
because they either stopped responding, or they have not shown an interest. Yet we believe that since they responded the first time, there is some fit. So we continue
Yeah.
to sort of put them into multiple sequences, but we are not having meetings. We are having people sign up and then not show up. So we know that the communication that is necessary for the prospect to say, yeah, it's important to meet with Andrew or meet with Shubhanjan,
Hmm.
that piece is missing.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have piqued their interest, they might have clicked, but they didn't see anything which interested them after that, or they
Sure.
didn't hear anything which interests. So that.
Sure. So yeah, so we usually start out with more of like qualitative questions like this, where we just try to get a general idea of the things that you're learning on that first call that you didn't know beforehand. And
Yeah.
then we also will take a list of who are, either your most recent best customers or the companies that are out there right now that, you know that they have this problem for whatever reason. They're your dream targets and you would love to, you've handpicked these accounts to go after and you want to find more like them.
Yeah.
And then we'll take that list, and then we can use that to identify, just the basic targeting. So the regular firmographics you would already have. But then we can do some regression and see, okay, of our hundreds of fields, is there any pattern here that we found? So you know, oh, all of them have this issue on their website that we've already detected, or all of them have this problem. This thing is true for all of them, or maybe it's hard to identify a good fit, but there's lots of signals here that can identify bad fits. So there's high correlation for this field. Oh, if they have this, then they don't have the problem, most likely. So maybe if they use chili piper, they don't have the problem that you're talking about here. So we usually will start with just getting a qualitative understanding, seeing how well does our current data, if we were to run on a data set, some correlation, how well does this identify good fits already? And does anything custom need to be built to actually have a perfect account list? And so usually it's a back and forth, because our algorithm works by taking a list of good fits that you've identified and also a list of bad fits. And so can we show you this list that we've done? And you're saying, okay, actually this company is a bad fit, this company is a bad fit, this company is a bad fit. We add those to the bad fit list, we rerun the model, and then is it possible to get to a perfect list there? Or does there need to be any custom data collected? We usually try not to do that. We hope not at this point. But if there is custom data, then that's usually a quick process for us to go and collect, and then that can really improve the performance of the model. So that's generally how we work. We have the first stage where we just try to understand your current approach, and then qualitatively how you identify good and bad fits on the first call. And then we get lists of good fits, lists of bad fits, and then we run that like you would have a lookalike on Facebook ads when you upload your customers there. And we see if that's good enough to get us there or if we need new data.
Sure, that makes sense. So where do you think this is headed? So this approach, obviously there'll be challenges when you are looking at new companies, because they may not have enough legacy
Yeah.
data to provide both the parts, bad fits and good fits.
Yeah.
Then you're going through hunches and sort of
Yeah.
some kind of guesswork, and then sort of try to backwork and figure out the fit.
Yeah.
Where do you see this approach, say 1 year down the line, especially with the kind of AI related, I'm loosely using the word AI, but the developments that are happening there, where do you see this whole process say
Yeah.
a year down the line?
Yeah, we really think that there's no type of Facebook ads targeting experience for B2B account targeting yet, and it's the main reason why is just, you know, there's none of that base data. So a year from now, ideally we have lots of more data points that we can use to identify good fits and bad fits. But on top of that, what's missing too is also that ongoing learning mechanism that you have in your ad campaigns. So if we're plugged into your CRM, we should be able to see every time you win an account, every time you lose an account, what's the reason why that you said you lost the account, and we can update the model for each customer accordingly. And so if we have something if we both are adding new columns over time, that can allow us to have better, more precise targeting, and also be learning every time you win an account, lose an account, and maybe you lost an account because, not because it wasn't a good fit, but for some other reason. That's the single metric, is just that close rate. So if we can impact that close rate, that's almost like the conversion rate on Facebook ads, where they're going to be optimizing around, or you can choose on Facebook ads what to optimize, but and how they choose who to recommend to you to target. So I think honestly, just making it more of a less of like a service like I described earlier, and more of just something that you have running all the time that you can trust, that's constantly recommending you the best accounts to reach out to you and why. And the more you can trust that, the higher your close rate can be from those, the better of a job we're doing. So it's nice to have something where we have a really objective goal to increase your close rates.
Yeah, makes sense. So what I take away from what you just said is that it is not something you run and forget. Okay, I have got enough leads for the next 3
Yeah,
months, so I don't do anything. It's literally about feeding more data into the system and
yeah,
and refining it all the time. It's
yeah,
it's literally training. It's literally training the data set, whatever you call it, AI or whatever way you want to, the model that you're building. I think the constant feeding of what worked and
yeah,
what didn't
yeah,
is key to this process being extremely robust 12 months or 18 months down the line.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Andrew, this was great. I mean, would you like to mention anything that I didn't talk to you about?
No, I'm curious because it's interesting to see all the new tools that are coming out. When you're talking about kind of, the explosion with AI, um, it's interesting to see the different ways that companies are making sales, solving a lot of the problems in sales. This is one of those things that, um, ChatGPT, GPT-4, they're really good at answering questions if you've provided that text to look at. So I'm excited to share the Google Sheets tactic that I mentioned earlier. Share a Luma for that, because that could be some good LinkedIn content too that I that I hadn't thought about. So so
Yeah.
thanks for zooming in on that. Thanks for asking so many great questions, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I really enjoyed. And I see that the interesting part would be possibly to circle back to you after a quarter and have one more chat on the same thing. Because I'm
Yeah,
sure by that time you would have worked on some accounts which would have given you some insights, uh,
yeah,
interesting insights, and you would have also seen where this whole AI, open AI led uh, experiments have gone.
yeah,
So
yeah,
where are they headed? Yeah.
yeah. That's the right word for it. Experiments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. I really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.